Hi, this is Andrew, and I thought I would share my story about how I passed the CFA Level 1 exam. When I first registered for the exam, I found it pretty helpful to listen to YouTube videos where people talk about how they passed the Level 1 exam. Not only did this give me ideas for developing my own study strategy, but I found it motivating and it gave me hope that I could pass the exam. So hopefully this video can give you some ideas for your study strategy and what it might take to pass this exam. So I started pretty early. I registered in late September for the June exam and probably spent a good week doing some research initially to determine what would be the ideal study strategy for me. I read through a lot of level 1 forums online, watched a few YouTube videos about how to pass the exam. I even read a ebook about someone who had passed all 3 levels on their first attempt. So I took bits and pieces of this information and developed my own study strategy that I thought would work best for me. As far as the readings, I used the actual curriculum books. My goal was to get through all the readings before January 1st, which gave me about 3 months. I didn't go through the readings in a casual sense like you would with a novel. Instead, I resorted more to skimming the readings and looking for concepts that answered the learning outcome statements. And for that reason, I relied heavily on flashcards while going through the books. I knew that if I had just read the material so far out in advance that I probably would not retain a lot of it. So by creating flashcards, not only did it help me to retain information better, but I wouldn't have to go back and reread the entire books again. And I try to write things down in my own words rather than writing it verbatim from the readings. This way I wouldn't have to go back to the books if I didn't quite understand what was on my flashcards. And a lot of my flashcards were based on the learning outcome statements and whatever I felt looked like testable material. They weren't really meant to be all-inclusive of every term or concept for the readings, but mainly core concepts and highlights that I felt were important. So after going through the entire curriculum, I think I had about 400 flashcards, mostly based on the learning outcome statements. So these were perfect for me to take on the go. It was definitely a lot easier to carry around flashcards than to carry around the curriculum books. Plus, they were written in my own words and summarized, so it was a much quicker way for me to get through the core concepts of the readings without having to go through the books a second time. I did watch level 1 related videos, but not in the sense of watching them and taking notes. I used them mainly to keep my mind thinking about the material when I wasn't studying. I could listen to a video on my car ride to work or right before I went to bed. And I used free content that I could find on YouTube. If it was level 1 related video, I'd make sure that the material in the video was still relevant. Although I did watch some videos that were not CFA program related, but still had content that was similar to what was in the readings, such as what you would find in the quant section. Once I finished skimming through all the readings and making flashcards, my next step was to do a second read of the books. However, my second read was more focused on areas that I found to be more difficult. I used that time to fine-tune my flashcards, and I did as many of the end of chapter problems as I could. And although I did plenty of the end of chapter problems, I did decide to purchase a prep provider's practice problems and mock exams sometime in March. And the reason I did this was just to give me, not just to give me extra practice problems, but to see practice problems from a different perspective and possibly a different style questioning. Plus, I think it helped fill in gaps where the end of the chapter problems may have lacked. So by the end of April, definitely by early May, my focus was almost entirely on doing practice problems and the review of my flashcards. I still used the curriculum, but really just for review when I did the practice problems. When it came to doing mock exams, I used 2 different sources. The mock exams on the CFA website and the mock exams through the prep provider that I purchased. So the prep provider that I purchased offered 10 mock exams. I did all 10 through them, and then I did at least 2 of the mock exams through the CFA website. So the way that I would do the mock exams was after I completed one, I would take a break or come back the next day, and I review the solutions. When I reviewed the solutions, I would have the CFA books right in front of me. If any part of the solution was unclear or if I just wanted more clarity, I resorted to the books. I even had my flashcards available so I could resort to those if it related to the question that I was reviewing. I labeled each flashcard with the reading number and the appropriate LOS, so it was almost quicker to review the flashcards versus going through the books. Although the books had way more details for me to review if I needed it. I probably spent as much time reviewing the mock exams as I did taking them. I looked at a lot of things when doing the review. Obviously, I looked at why I got a question wrong, but I also looked at why I got a question right if I wasn't 100% certain. I also looked at why the other answer choices were wrong. And I kind of jumped around the material a lot during each review. So it was pretty exhausting, and by the end, I felt pretty burnt out. But I felt like that is what I needed to do to make sure that I was going to pass. The day before the exam, I did browse through some of my flashcards, but I only did this for about an hour or so. The rest of the time, I just relaxed. Just try to get my mind to focus on the exam and not worry about anything else. When I took the exam, I didn't feel like the questions were really difficult, aside from ethics perhaps. For me, trying to remember the answer to a question from all the material covered in the books was the real challenge, and I assume that's the case for most candidates. After the exam, I felt somewhat confident that I'd passed, but I knew it was going to be close. It was just one of those feelings where you think it could go either way. But in the end, I did pass. So if I had to sum up what I think attributed to me passing the level 1 exam, I'd say it was mostly due to the hard work that I put in, because I don't think I did anything special in preparing for this exam. I went through the readings, I made flashcards, I did plenty of practice problems and review those solutions, and I think those are all common ways that candidates prepare for the exam. I didn't use any secret methods that hadn't been done before. So for me, I think it really came down to putting in the time to do the work and then having the discipline to stick to my study plan. And in the end, that paid off. All right, so I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions about your exam preparation, feel free to ask me in the comment section below. And good luck.